Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Building Integrated Online Storefronts with PC Bennett Solutions. On the call, we will be covering best practices for setting up an e-commerce solution, how to find efficiencies in existing online storefronts to help you boost your game, and the importance of having an e-commerce solution that's tied into your backend ERP. I'm Strati Mustakais. I'm PC Bennett's content marketing specialist, and I'm joined today by Yuri Karpenko, our Director of E-commerce Solutions. Yuri is our in-house subject matter expert when it comes to assisting our clients in setting up and optimizing their online storefronts, and we are thrilled to have him join today to share his wisdom with you all. He has years of both e-commerce and ERP implementation experience and has been a driving leader in PC Bennett's efforts to create an in-house digital agency that helps our clients launch online storefronts and maximize their offerings to ensure their users have a streamlined and fluid experience when purchasing products off of their site. I'd like to let you all in attendance on today's call know that to make this meaningful for you, we'd really appreciate you sending in questions using the Q&A or the chat feature. This is really going to help ensure you're getting the most relevant information possible on this call. So please really don't hesitate, send anything in around your e-commerce endeavors and we'll try to answer them throughout the call. And so with that, Yuri, thanks so much for joining us today and let's kick this off.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
Yeah, cool. So can you start by sharing with our audience why you chose to dedicate your time to e-commerce and why you find it an exciting field to work in?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been working in e-commerce for a long time. Even before I joined PC Bennett and did ERP, I've been doing e-commerce before. I was working for companies that sold through e-commerce platforms and different marketplaces. So I'm not new to the omni-channel, which we might touch on later on today in the call. But when I joined PC Bennett and worked in a role of a business consultant for a couple of years, what I saw is that companies do need e-commerce today to prosper, to generate revenue, to streamline their operations. And while ERP is serving as that backbone and accounting system of records for our clients, they do need different ways to talk to their clients and sell their products. And what I saw is that ERP platforms usually have even different vocabulary to talk about business versus e-commerce platforms. So my idea initially was, all right, I do know both. I know ERP and I know e-commerce, so we need to find a way to marry them together and make it as painless as possible for our customers. So that's how we started looking into e-commerce. In addition to that, most of our clients do have e-commerce. Today is really hard to find a company that doesn't have an e-commerce presence. Sometimes they don't sell, they only advertise online, but then sell somehow else. But still, in our customer base, I don't think we have anyone who doesn't have an e-commerce piece in their business suite of software. So it's at utmost importance today. In addition to that, looking in the future, I think that's what's going to be required more and more. I'm not saying that retail is dying. I'm just saying that e-commerce is just another expression for a company to find its market, to communicate better with their customers. And that's why I think it's very important to have e-commerce in today's world, both for B2B clients and B2C companies. It doesn't matter today. Even if you are selling to other businesses, you still need an e-commerce piece, or you still need some improvement in how you communicate with your clientele.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing some of that personal experience and why you chose to go into this. And so let's kind of jump into a little bit of the nitty gritty here. So when it comes to setting up an e-commerce solution, what are kind of some key best practices that will allow that environment to thrive and also generate revenue from the jump? I think that's kind of an important piece, is making sure that it's already generating revenue once it's set up.
Yeah, and I think started that it's really not that difficult. A lot of people overthink when it comes to software and e-commerce, or even other areas of handling their business, but it's really simple. The purpose of e-commerce is to serve the client. And then the question that you should be asking is, all right, how can I serve my clients better? And how can I use e-commerce, or how can I use ERP, or how can I use the point of sale system better, or find a good solution so that my clients feel better served, that they get some value from me having that kind of a solution. And ultimately, e-commerce is just that. It's a tool to communicate your company value, to tell your clients what you have, at what price, how they can buy it, what are the different ways they can engage with your product. Again, there are so many different levels of that. If you're talking about retail e-commerce site, for instance, you need to tell your clients how to use your product, what are the warranty terms, and all of that. Some installation instructions if it's some piece of a machinery or a tool that you're buying. But if you're talking about B2B business, it's a different set of requirements, like, right? You need e-commerce to maybe an easier order entry process. So the question becomes, all right, how can I use this solution, this system, that my online presence, to help my clients, to help them, let's say, not pick up a phone and give me a call when they need to ask for the availability of some products, or how they can place an order in the middle of the night because they just remember that they need to do it, but my business is closed today. So in order to generate revenue, you need to make it super easy for your clients to use your website, to use your e-commerce system. And it absolutely needs to be accessible 24/7, 365 days a year, or 366, depending on the year. It needs to be accessible. They need to know about you, right? If you're coming from a point where you never had any commerce, then the best bet to generate some revenue is to talk to your existing clients and route them. We see that more and more with our B2B clients, where they say, we never sold online. And the main reason they are going into e-commerce is that they have a number of clients that still send them POs, or call them, or email them. And they say, well, we would like a better customer experience. Can we just go somewhere and place our order with our custom pricing and all of that? And that's what e-commerce can do for them. So the e-commerce website can generate revenue for you, even if you have never done an online sale before. It all depends on what are you trying to do with your e-commerce. So think in very simple terms. Why do I need this? How can I make my client's life easier? And then it's easy. The e-commerce site will just grow, and you will onboard more prospects, more clients. If it's a retail site, then of course you need some SEO, you need some marketing to generate more leads, and to generate some awareness of your website. But in that case, we're probably talking about someone who already has an e-commerce and they just need to make it better, which we can also help with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I appreciate you kind of attacking that from both ends, whether it's B2B or B2C. So in that next step, I mean, at PC Bennett, we really focus on ERP implementation and support, and enabling businesses to have back-end systems that are their single source of truth. So can you please explain the importance of having an online storefront that's directly integrated into an ERP?
Yes, I think that was the main driver behind us becoming an e-commerce solution provider, versus just being an ERP provider, or just being an e-commerce provider. The reason behind that was e-commerce website on its own, if it's disconnected from everything else you have, if it's siloed, it can have the data that is old enough, that is not up to date. It is not real time. And mostly what I'm talking about, two things are product data. If you have a lot of products that you add, update, you need them to be updated quickly. And if you're managing catalogs with thousands or hundreds of thousands of SKUs, you need to be able to do those updates quick, and you need to be able to have those updates across all of your different sales channels. And that's when people say, all right, for that to happen, we need some backend system. So they come to us as an Acumatica ERP provider and said, okay, can you do that? And we say, yes, you can consolidate everything about your products in Acumatica. And then the question is, all right, how can we have it in e-commerce? Well, you need an integrated e-commerce for that. You need the e-commerce be feeding on your ERP system. So that's why it's important to have that connection. Another piece is inventory counts. Like that's probably the biggest one, right? If you come to the website and you buy something and then you get a call the next day from that company saying, oh, we're sorry, but we don't have that item in stock. It's like, it's worse than if that person wouldn't come to your website in the first place. Because then it's a bad customer experience. The first interaction with you was bad, and they won't place another order on your website or with your company at all because they cannot trust the information that you're giving them. Integrated e-commerce, it's when your backend system is driving inventory information in your e-commerce or in your Amazon or in your eBay account, and then the information in your backend system is usually the most precise one, because that's where you do your inventory counts. That's when you do your PO receipts. That's when you do your sales orders from offline sales and all of that. So it is very important to have the information flowing from your ERP into e-commerce so that the client can have the up-to-date data to work with. I would say that those two things, the product data and inventory, are the most crucial ones. They're not the only ones. Another piece of it could be the integrated customer experience. Like think about somebody who walked into a store, purchased something, and they saw there you have they have some marketing materials that say there's our website. They go to your website next time, buy something. Imagine how good they would feel if they set up an account with their email address that they provided during their visit to your store. When they log into their account, they see the previous orders, right? That they placed offline. They can still see their orders because they are tied to their same email account. So the client using your e-commerce have a feeling of working with a company and not just, okay, there is a store, there is an offline store, there is eBay. It's the same company, but they don't feel that way. The integrated e-commerce lets you bridge that gap and lets you have all of your sales orders assigned to this client in your e-commerce solution. So that's kind of like a customer portal and they feel more cared for. They can track a lot of things. They can look back at their purchase history. They might be bought something because they were driving by and bought something in the store. And just because we know who they are, we associated that order with the correct customer, and they can go back in their e-commerce and see the history of their purchases. So I think it's very important to have the connection there between your backend system and e-commerce, because it gives the client feels more cared for when they experience that. Not a lot of companies do that, but there is definitely a move towards that.
Yeah, I mean, I think even times when I've gone to like Target or something, like I do actually am able to go on their website and kind of either track orders that I wasn't able to pick up when I was in the physical location, or I just am able to use that, to your point, that same login. It's that creating that holistic experience that kind of enables a customer to feel valued and like there's an actual relationship there with the company. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you very much for going into that. And so if we're really talking about a company that either doesn't have an ERP system or doesn't have an e-commerce solution set up, how do you really recommend going about these systems? Let's say they don't have either. Is it best to kind of do that in tandem or set up e-commerce before ERP or vice versa? What's kind of your methodology there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get that asked sometimes, not too much these days, because as I said, most of the clients today, most of the companies today, they have some kind of an e-commerce presence, and they probably have some kind of resemblance of an ERP. In most cases, it's not a full-fledged ERP, but some kind of a backend system. But still, let's say somebody wants to upgrade to move from whatever they have as their accounting system to a more robust ERP solution, and at the same time go with a better e-commerce solution. Question is, what do you do first, or do you do them in tandem, just as you phrased the question? My approach to that is always this. First, if you go with your ERP first, how are you going to get orders from your current system to your ERP solution? Is there an easy way to do that? If there's an easy way to do that, then definitely you can go with ERP, connect it to your existing e-commerce solution, and then do the upgrade to the e-commerce later. Most of the time, though, it's not the case, because e-commerce solutions, they historically have built with this idea of, all right, we're just an online marketplace. We are selling, we have our orders, we have some connectors to probably shipping functionality, but they are in and of themselves. So they are siloed in that case. The other approach would be, let's go with e-commerce first and then add ERP. Well, I think if we look at that from 30,000 feet perspective, that's probably a better approach, because you can still generate revenue through your e-commerce and then bring in the ERP solution later, because currently your e-commerce is not connected to your ERP or whatever the backend solution you have. So changing the e-commerce is a bit more easier in that sense. But most of the time, what happens is the company wants everything now, and it should all be working together, which means we need to go with the tandem approach, where we do both projects in parallel and then they go live on the same date, which is absolutely valid. And we have a process to accomplish that. I think that's the best approach, because you are getting most value from both new system, from your ERP and from your e-commerce solution. You are upgrading your e-commerce solution, so you're getting probably better customer experience. You're getting better overall e-commerce experience for your clients. You're getting a new ERP system that solves other issues like your the order management, the shipping management, your vendor relationships management, your accounting management. Everything is solved there. But then if you get two of those systems together and they are tightly integrated, what you're also getting is a tremendous saving of time and money on the integration, because you don't have to do a lot of things manually. If both systems are integrated, then they talk to each other from day one. So, and most of what we have done was we would upgrade the e-commerce to something newer, and we would upgrade the ERP to something very robust, and we integrate them. And then on one day, we go live with both systems. And we have seen tremendous results with that approach.
Yeah, I think actually we have a case study on our website with a company, Van Cafe, where we helped them modernize their e-commerce solution. They were on an outdated system, and then we brought them onto the BigCommerce platform, and they also implemented their Acumatica ERP. And the results from that were pretty astounding. I'm pretty sure you worked on that project, right?
Yes, we did. It was a very good project. You can read about the e-commerce piece, how much their e-commerce presence have improved with that project, but also the ERP, which is usually forgotten in this type of projects, but it was a big part of it as well. Like the idea, the idea that their e-commerce was connected to Acumatica from day one was a huge benefit for them. Because again, they didn't have, before that, their orders were flowing into their e-commerce, and they had to export them to CSV and somehow process them, and somehow then bring them into their ERP. From day one, they didn't have to do it anymore. All of the orders were coming into Acumatica directly. They were shipped from Acumatica, and all the shipping information was going back to their e-commerce solution. So yeah, you can read more about that on our website. That's a pretty good story.
Yeah, I shared the link in the chat, so everyone has access to that, which is great. So yeah, thank you for sharing that little experience from one of our existing clients. That's great. And so on the other hand, we were talking about someone who doesn't have either an ERP or an e-commerce system set up. Let's say someone has an online storefront that they've had for years that's worked fine. What is kind of that motivation to modernize that solution? Frankly, I think the fact that we just talked about Van Cafe is kind of leading into that. So why would someone want to enhance or modernize their e-commerce system?
There are a couple of reasons to do that. The one of the big ones is what I just mentioned, is the integration. So think about your current system, how it can be integrated with an ERP solution. Is it integrated today? What I'm seeing is with our prospects and clients that we work with, they come with this ERP solution that is probably some kind of a industry specific, and they have this e-commerce solution which oftentimes is custom built, because e-commerce solutions, yes, they existed before, but they existed for huge companies, right? Think about those IBMs and Oracles and Adobe's. Yes, they had e-commerce solutions, but they were humongous. A medium or small size business couldn't afford those things. So what they end up doing is they would set up something with an engineer or a developer who lives across the street, and they would have this custom built solution. Well, guess what? First of all, that is not robust enough, and second of all, it doesn't have any integration options. So what ends up happening is you have an ERP, you have an e-commerce, but they don't talk to each other. So the and that's the most important thing, because when you grow your business, you are winning on saving the cost. You can be selling more and more, but if your cost of servicing that order is going up, then you're not really making money. You're just spinning your wheels, and nobody wants that, right? You need to save money. In order to win in business today, you probably need to keep your prices at the level they are today, but saving on the cost and raising your margins. And that's what the robust integration gives you, because it lets you do more with less expense, with less cost. And the second thing is, again, I just mentioned it, but the e-commerce solutions in the past, most of them were custom built, which means they are not scalable. They have their limitations. The databases have limitations. The code has limitations. It's not easily maintainable. So say somebody built you a software for e-commerce, well, that person or that company probably can be not around anymore. Who can support your solution today? Well, you can hire someone to do that, but somebody would need to learn the code base, and it's a big expense for a company to do that. Today, what we're seeing is that e-commerce is moving to the cloud. I think the world is moving to the cloud with the ERP and all other softwares. Like we hardly use any software today that is installed in our computers. And even most of the software that are installed is just simply a shell to an online version of it, right? So like think about Microsoft Outlook. You have it on your computer, but it's just a shell that is talking to the web UI and displaying the same data. So the data is actually not in your computer. Even with huge manufacturing systems and ERP systems today, most of them are cloud-based, and that's the same process, the same trend we see in e-commerce. Everything is moving to cloud, and there are a lot of benefits to cloud. One of them is you have zero maintenance cost. Somebody takes care of the servers. Somebody takes care of your data privacy, and at the early stages of the information technology in the cloud development, what we saw is that people were scary about that. It felt like, all right, if my data is in the cloud, then I don't own it. What happens if I need to pull the data at some point? But it's not true anymore. companies have become those providers, the e-commerce providers. They understand the risks and everything, and they made it super easy for us, for you as a client, to access your data, to pull it out if you need to migrate to a different system. Today it's very easy to do so. But you get the flexibility, you get the maintenance. The maintenance is really low with SaaS, with service as a solution as in the cloud. You have a lot of flexibility because the solution scales with your business. So again, think about your homegrown solution. It was built. I'm sure any developer or any engineer would ask you a question. All right, how many orders do you expect to get a month or a day? What is the peak performance? And they build a solution based on those assumptions. Now, what if your business has grown and now you're not getting 20 orders a day, you're getting 20 orders a minute? Your server will melt if it's built with 20 orders a day requirement, right? With cloud solution, you have the scalability flexibility, which means that if you get in more orders, they assign your nodes, or your code is running on more powerful servers and machines. So, and you don't even have to do anything. It happens automatically, right? And also another big one is, think about the time you needed to upgrade your solution. If it's a homegrown solution, the upgrade is a nightmare, especially if you have some kind of integrations. It's a project in itself. And now think about, again, Outlook. Have you ever been notified by Microsoft that they are doing an update during Outlook? No, because they do it in the backend. You just every day you start your Outlook line or whatever program you use, you could see some new features and they're just there. It's because the solution is built in the cloud and new features are just popping up. So the maintenance is on the provider side, and you don't pay extra for that. It just automatically happens. So there are a lot of reasons to modernize your e-commerce solution. The two main ones is integration with modern ERP solutions, and the second one is, how flexible are you today with your existing solution? Well, the new one will give you a lot of flexibility and potential to grow, because we're striving for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big reason why people choose to switch over to ERPs from kind of their own, like, handcrafted backend solutions sometimes, is like, their business gets to a certain point where that backend solution isn't able to maintain what their business is currently doing. So having something that is scalable just allows, to your point, even with inventory, like, to get that real flow of inventory information, you need something that is modern, adaptable, built on current technology. So that absolutely makes a lot of sense. And so with that, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about omnichannel. I think that's kind of a big buzzword that's very prevalent in marketing circles in the year 2023. And so I'd love to be able to kind of chat about that and how it relates to e-commerce. So in terms of PC Bennett specifically, how are we kind of adapting to this new modus operandi that is omnichannel?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think omnichannel has been around. The term has been around for quite some time, but it really started trending in 2020, 2021, when we went with COVID and this lockdown mandates and all of that. And the reason for that was, why the marketers started talking about omnichannel is that we were all locked down at home. We were placing a lot of orders online, but then from time to time we were venturing out into the real world and talking to people. And what a lot of companies found out is that their online presence and their offline presence is two completely different things. And the client can feel different about the company if they interact online or if they interact offline. And that's not good, because you are one company and you need to present yourself. You need to interact with your clients on the same level with the same messaging on different platforms. So think about a company that sells their product online on their e-commerce store, sells it in their local physical store, sells it on eBay, sells it on Amazon. If I and today people do that often. They find something that they want to buy, they research the company, they go to their website, they go to their Amazon account, they if they can find a store nearby, they will go to the store. If that person looking for your product getting different messages from all of those different platforms, they're kind of confused, right? If they're seeing drastically different prices, which I know, so sometimes you need to do that, especially for online marketplaces, for eBay's and Amazon's, because they charge some extra fees for the processing. But if they see something that you're selling online for $500, and that same widget on Amazon is $1,000, and in the physical online store is $200, they could be confused and think, well, I'm not sure if this product is legit, or if this company is trustworthy. So omni-channel, it lets the company to present itself to the clientele pretty much the same way, be it online e-commerce, be it Facebook ads, be it e-commerce marketplaces or physical store. So, and the way we approach it at PC Bennett is we say, well, the messaging is your part of the deal. You need to develop that. You own that. But we will give you tools to simplify that process, which means, let's say your product data, it needs to be more or less the same, or at least convey the same message across different platforms. So we will give you tools we will give you a backend system like an Acumatica ERP that will have the data, but then we will give you tools to push the data to your e-commerce, to push the data to your marketplaces. So we will work with you to find the optimal way to communicate your message to your clients. So, and I think it's big today. I think today marketplaces are very easy, right? Like Amazon, eBay, for some people, they just go and shop there. And for the companies who want to sell online, they need to establish their online presence and give that feeling to the client that, hey, we are here. You can buy from our website. You can trust our website. And the way to do that is to talk to the client in different platforms, but convey the same message. I've read somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, but I've read somewhere that today it is required that the client takes at least 13 points of contact with your content before they can trust you. Oh. Which means, yes, they need to see your ad on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram, or somewhere online or in paid Google search, in order to say, well, I can trust this company. It just builds awareness for your brand, and that's what omnichannel is for.
Yeah, and I think in addition to awareness, credibility too. If you're able to have that consistent appearance through your Facebook ad, with your online store, with your offline experience, that does create a credibility that these people do have a really robust operation that seems to be firing on all cylinders. So in terms of omnichannel, can you kind of give an example of what an omnichannel effort can look like, and what some of the benefits a business can experience because of taking this kind of newer venture?
Yes. So just as I mentioned, the benefit would be that you get a client. If you are in retail or even B2B, you can get clients simply by having omni-channel presence. So you are present on different platforms, and you are conveying the same message. So you are building that credibility and trust with your prospects or your clients. The example of that, of how we do that, could be the e-commerce platforms that we're working with, and we're mostly working with Shopify Plus and BigCommerce Solutions. Those two platforms, the reason we decided to go with them, they have some built-in omni-channel tools. Both of them lets you upload your products to Google Ads, but not only. They let you upload your products to Instagram, to eBay, to Amazon with pretty much the same message in there. You can route your orders through the same e-commerce solution back into your ERP solution like Acumatica, or you can route them through a different middleware. It's a technical question, but the idea is that with the modern e-commerce solutions, most of them, they are trying to give you some tools to build that presence. And what we have done is we have used BigCommerce and we have used Shopify to populate all of those different marketplaces with our products, to populate the Google Ads feed through your e-commerce. And those things, they don't give you a fast return, but they do build that credibility. They do build that presence, and the clients start to see you more. So that's the value there.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the 13 touch points that you referenced, right? You may not see the immediate effects, but as the more and more you're able to build up those touch points with potential clients, the more likely those deals are to convert later on in the future. So I think the logic there absolutely makes sense. And so with that, if you can just give me 1 second, I'd love to move into kind of some audience Q&A. I think we did get a couple questions ahead of time, which is great. So we appreciate people sending those in. And so to start, we can, someone asked, which e-commerce solution would you recommend for easy integration with Acumatica?
There are a few of them. We work a lot with BigCommerce, which has Acumatica has a native connector for BigCommerce. This is a good solution. It's very robust. It's fast. It has a lot of SEO built in. A ton of our projects are done in BigCommerce. VenCafe, the one that you mentioned, Shruti, is done with BigCommerce. It can handle a lot of different options for your product. So think about products with variants like T-shirts with size and color, or shoes or something like that. And there are some products that require a lot of depth to their variant structure. BigCommerce can handle a lot of those. I think they have a 100 options limitation, which means you can have 100 different options. So think of color and size are 2 options. I'm not talking about the variants themselves, just options. So in BigCommerce, you can have 100 of different options, which is crazy. I've never done that, and I don't know what the user experience would be with those 100 options. But sometimes you need more than 2 or 3. Shopify Plus is the other one. We do work with Shopify, just regular Shopify. Shopify Plus is by far the most one used by our clients, because it gives you a lot more flexibility too. Like they have added the B2B functionality recently, about a year ago, which is pretty solid. The Acumatica connector is starting to support it as well. So if we are talking from Acumatica perspective, not the Acumatica perspective, from the perspective of integrating that e-commerce into your ERP solution, which we do in Acumatica ERP at PC Bennett, the BigCommerce and Shopify has native connectors in Acumatica, and those are big winning points for these 2 e-commerce solutions. There are others as well, and they could be integrated through different channels or different ways, but we try to use this too, because native connector is always better, it's always faster, it's more efficient. And these 2 platforms, they are leaders in the e-commerce market. If you look at the G2 quadrant that they've done about a month ago, Shopify Plus is there in the leaders, and BigCommerce is a challenger. But I think it's a challenger overall, but they have a very, very good and defined niche. So if you are a B2B business, I would go with BigCommerce. If you are a retail business, you can go with BigCommerce or Shopify. It's a process. What we do at PC Bennett is when we get asked that question, we go through a discovery process. So we ask some very pointy questions, because there are some intricacies to all the e-commerce solutions, which we have done a lot of them, so we know what questions to ask to route you, to help you, to guide you to find a better solution for your business.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a lot about kind of that native connector with between Acumatica and BigCommerce or Shopify Plus. Just from kind of a definition standpoint, just so we're talking brass tacks to our audience, what is a native connector? And then I'm pretty sure there's non-native connectors. So can you dive a bit into the difference between those and why one is more effective over the other?
Yes, the native connector, when we say native connector, it means that Acumatica itself, the company that built an ERP, owns the code that runs the connection between ERP and e-commerce, which means they know Acumatica very well. They built it, and they worked with an e-commerce provider, Shopify or BigCommerce, to learn their APIs, and they built that connector to talk directly into that e-commerce solution. So what you have your ERP, you have your e-commerce, and they talk to each other, and there is nothing in between them other than the piece of software in Acumatica. Why is it efficient? First of all, there is no added layer of complexity between these two systems, right? So the speed is very high. Let's say something is happening in your e-commerce, somebody places an order. Well, that generates a webhook, if we want to be a little technical, that automatically tells Acumatica, hey, I have a new order. So Acumatica can pull that order in the matter of a few seconds. And it's big when you're processing thousands of orders a day, which do happen, right? The non-native connector is something that lives in between these two systems, between your ERP and between your e-commerce. There are different flavors of them. The one that is most similar to native connector is a customization on your ERP. So if the ERP is open source or customizable like Acumatica, you can build on top of Acumatica using their framework. You can build some connectors for Acumatica. Well, it becomes kind of it lives on the same server that Acumatica lives on. So you have a piece of code that runs and talks to your e-commerce solution, but it's separate from Acumatica. It's a bolt-on. So you need to think about if you can imagine your software as physical items, right? You would have your Acumatica box. With native connector, you have Acumatica box and you have e-commerce box, and they each talk to each other. There is a string between them. If you have a bolt-on, you have Acumatica box, and then you have a customization box on top of that, and then that box tries to talk to e-commerce, process the data, push it down to your ERP, and there is the third option, which is a completely separate middleware, where you have e-commerce, you have ERP, and you have some kind of a middleware that talks to both systems, that gets some information from one and sends it to another. Sometimes it's useful when you have, let's say, your ERP, e-commerce, and something, your CRM that is completely separate from your ERP. So you can use that middleware to talk to all three of them and process some data. There is a lot of complexity with their approach, though, and it's not very fast and it's not super efficient. It is only required for a lot of flexibility in the operations. Sometimes it's needed, but more and more I see a trend towards native connectors because they are just so fast.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense with kind of that one-to-one, like basically eliminating a middleman kind of between having a native and non-native. And so I would like to remind the audience, just if you could send any questions that you do have in, Yuri's more than willing to answer. We have the chat and Q&A feature open. And so one question we did get from the audience, Yuri, it was kind of a follow-up to the first question was, does the Acumatica connector work well for WordPress or WooCommerce? And so I think kind of to rephrase that, we could even say, are those native or non-native connectors? And if you could just give some experience that PC Bennett has had working with either of those types of e-commerce solutions.
So there is no native connector for in Acumatica for WooCommerce. There have been some attempts to build it, and there were some trials, and I did test one of them, but I don't think they have become official. And the reason for that was that WooCommerce is very diverse and flexible system. I mean, it's good e-commerce solution. I'm not saying that it's not, but a lot of what you have in WooCommerce has to be an app, which means from the integration standpoint, it's a nightmare because you don't know which app to integrate with, right? With BigCommerce and Shopify, you have a lot of built-in functionality, which we can integrate to from Acumatica. And we know that API is stable, we know how it works, and we know that it will not break because BigCommerce takes care of that, or Shopify takes care of that. With WooCommerce, it's a different story. You set up a WordPress site, you build WooCommerce into it, which gives you some e-commerce functionality. But then if you really want to make it work properly for you, you install a bunch of apps. I've done it myself before. As I said, we were selling online, we were selling Amazon and eBay, and my WooCommerce had a bunch of different apps. And if I wanted to integrate that with something, I would need to integrate ERP to WooCommerce and to this app and to this app and to this app, which a lot of times these apps have a couple people on their team. Like, it's not that hard to build an app, but it's hard to integrate it, and the maintenance becomes very tricky. So there are some solutions on the market, which I mentioned before, which is a customization on top of Acumatica. But they basically connect your Acumatica to basic WooCommerce functionality. Our experience was, yes, they work, but the e-commerce itself is not advanced enough to warrant the building a native connector for Acumatica. And I don't want to speak for them, but I feel like that's where we'll end it. The other thing I would say is we need to distinguish between WordPress and WooCommerce. So WordPress is a CMS system, and WooCommerce is an e-commerce solution for WordPress. What we have seen is WordPress used as a CMS with BigCommerce as an e-commerce piece. There is a solution which we call headless commerce in today's world, where you have your e-commerce like BigCommerce, and Shopify is moving there as well with their latest updates. You can use your e-commerce functionality, but then your presentation layer, what you see on the screen, is built in WordPress or is built in some custom code, which gives you a lot of flexibility with your code, with how you generate your content, how you present your content. But the backbone is still one of those big systems like BigCommerce or Shopify. In that case, that would be a connector between Acumatica and BigCommerce, Acumatica and Shopify, and the presentation layer could be WordPress. So it's very important to understand that.
Yeah, I think that actually clears up a lot, that you could really have the WordPress site existing, but it's really what the e-commerce tool enables the actual sales and order processing to take place. That makes a lot of sense. And so let's just give a couple more moments, see if there's any additional questions that roll in. So please, anyone, if you have anything, just let us know and we'll try and address that. And so we'll just kind of give a couple more minutes real quick, if that's all right, Yuri, just to see if anything rolls in.
No, absolutely. Yeah, while the questions are coming or people are thinking about questions, I also want to add that the native connector gives you some assurance that it's going to be there in the next version of Acumatica or whatever ERP you're using. When you're using it with a middleware or some customization on top of your ERP, there is no certainty that with the next iteration of your ERP solution, that customization will exist. And we have that, we've seen that happen. With native functionality though, Acumatica, I don't remember Acumatica sunsetting any of their functionality in the last 5-10 years. So what they did, they added new things, but they have never said, okay, this is not working, or we're just, we have 5 clients who use this, so we'll just ditch this features. No, if you have it with as a native functionality, you can be sure that it will stay, and in the next iteration it will just become better. And one of the examples of that could be in e-commerce. What we have heard, and Acumatica have heard, what often happens is when you present the product to your client, the quantity of your products, the inventory quantity in your e-commerce shouldn't always be exactly what you have in ERP. So you can have thousands of the same widget in your warehouse, but when it comes to e-commerce, you may want to create some sense of urgency, or you may want to make sure that you don't oversell. So what you do is you need to have some third number, not Acumatica's, not e-commerce, but some third number that would tell e-commerce, this is how many I have. So what Acumatica have done in their latest version is they have added an adjuster for the inventory count for products. Each product can have an adjuster set for, like, say, -10, which means I have 1,000 products, or I have 20 products, but I will adjust it by -10. So my e-commerce will think I only have 10. And there are other ways to manage that with attributes and custom fields, where you can set the max and min, and you can use that smart in your e-commerce solution to tell your clients how many products you have, to drive the best experience for them and to drive the most sales for your business.
Yeah, especially calling back the conversation we had about inventory quantity. You don't want to ever oversell or create that bad client experience. So being able to have those preset options within the ERP to allow you to kind of keep at least some on hand in case something like that ever happens. I think that's a really great tool. And so is that actually available in the current edition, or is that what's going to be available in the next major update that comes out in October?
It's coming out in October. It's 23R2 version of Acumatica.
And with that, I might as well plug the fact that PC Bennett typically does webinars for new releases of Acumatica. So there's 2 major releases every year. The year number, so for this year, it's 2023 R1, which came out this spring, and then R2, which comes out in the fall. And so if you'd like to learn more about 2023 R2, just let us know, and we can try and get you invited to that webinar as well. But it doesn't look like we had any other additional questions roll in. So I just want to say thank you, everyone who joined the call today. I hope you're leaving here with some great takeaways on how you can boost your e-commerce game going forward, or how to approach omnichannel if you haven't done that yet. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us with any additional questions you may have, whether that's to our sales team, which can be at the hello@pcbennett.com email you see on the screen right now, or directly to Yuri. His email is yurik, YURIK, @pcbennett.com. And then you can always visit our website and fill out any of the forms on there, and we'll be sure to get you in contact with one of our sales reps. And actually, holy cow, I'm so sorry. Yuri, we do have one more question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Is it possible to get a trial of the native connector? I guess it depends on which e-commerce solution you're getting, but go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, if you are an Acumatica already, what you can do is you can set up a sandbox environment for Acumatica, and there are different ways to do that. One is through Acumatica themselves. Another one is just setting up a separate tenant in your existing Acumatica with a sandbox or test tenant type. And there is a third version or approach where you can just spun up Acumatica on your local computer. If you have a Windows machine, you can do that. And when you have your test environment, the connector is everything actually there and available to you. So you can test it with your Shopify or BigCommerce. It will be a limitation of 2 users, concurrent users in Acumatica for that. And I think that another limitation is real-time sync. They will not allow that to happen in the test environment, but most of the features are there. No, all of the features are there. So you can test those out if you have Acumatica installed in a sandbox environment.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I appreciate everyone asking all their questions today. It was really nice that we were able to have such a robust discussion. So again, I'll just share that last screen in case you need to see those emails. So there's hello@pcbennett.com as well as yurik@pcbennett.com. And yeah, feel free to visit our site if you have any additional questions. There's a host of blog content, previous webinars, and ebooks and other resources that you can see to help you on your e-commerce and omni-channel journey. So again, thanks everyone for joining today. We really appreciate it. Yuri, thanks again for hopping on and sharing your wisdom as our e-commerce expert. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
All right.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
day,
guys.
everyone.
Thank
Yep.
you.